All right, well, on that note, welcome to the meeting. It's Wednesday, November 19th, 6:32, calling the board of the Montpelier-Roxbury School District to order. Our first order of business is public comment, where the board hears input from the public on what's happening in our schools. And it's our chance to just listen to the community. I don't see anyone in the room here for public comment. Do we have anyone online?
There are people online, but if you'd like to make public comment, raise your hand.
Just raise your hand if you'd like to make a public comment. We can move you into the queue. Let's give them a sec. Sometimes it's hard to find that button. Okay, we'll move on then to the next order of business, which is the consent agenda. And this is where the board moves all sorts of pretty non-controversial things, like minutes of committee meetings and the superintendent's report, payroll, stuff like that. In this one, we do also have the policy adoption of policy C13, which has gone through a few readings. So I just want to note that. And with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Jill. Any discussion or any items board members want to pull off the agenda for discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I think you're up.
I'd like to
And
introduce
Jess.
Dr. Jessica Murray.
Oh,
who's
congratulations, Jess.
recently Doctorate.
Oh, that's very exciting. Oh, that's really big.
I go, what's next? She's like, what's next, Liv? I think I got it covered.
We got that out of the way and now moving on to more important things.
Yeah, so.
Very exciting.
Moved up really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here, Nick. You too.
That's hard to beat.
It is. Doctor and a baby on the way. That is
Double better.
okay. We'll turn it over to you.
All right, I guess I'll get started.
After you,
All right,
doctor.
so
Doctor.
it's still weird. It was yesterday, so that's why people are making a big deal about it. So yeah, so you all, I think, had this wonderful report that Nick helped us out with. Again, it's based on largely our social emotional learning survey, which is given to all of our students K through 2. Teachers take it, and then 3 through 12th grade students take it, and we've moved it from 3 times a year to twice a year based on some student feedback and also feedback from teachers too, just feeling like it was a lot of the same survey over and over again. So just to situate us in some of our continuous improvement goals, right, hoping they're all around engagement and belonging. So we put those right up front for you. When we're looking at a district level belonging, 68% of students responded favorably when asked how much they feel like they belong when they're at school. So again, that's looking at one particular question within the survey, directly asking how much do you feel like you belong, and favorably just means they answered a 4 or 5 to that. So we're seeing right now we're at 68%, and Nick provided a nice little graph of over time. So thank you, Nick. Some of the benchmarks when comparing us to other school districts across the nation, again, panorama is nice because we can compare our data across the nation to any school who also takes this. And so when compared to other school districts with very similar characteristics, for our 3 to 5 crew, we're in the 90th percentile when we're looking at belonging, and then for 6 to 12, we're in the 70th percentile when compared to other schools that also take the same survey.
Jess, can you break that down by grade level? Like specific, or is it just grade bands?
Yeah, so with you mean with the national
Yeah.
report? I believe that's only gonna be available at the assessment level, so like the 6 to 12 and 3 to 5.
I should know that, I just didn't. Thanks.
And then we also included base tests per school. So UES is currently at 72%, Main Street is at 69%, and Montpelier High School is at 66%. Noticeably, compared to the spring question last year, our fifth graders are up 11% when compared to last spring. And then MHS is actually up 8 percentage points, which is really, really exciting to see the amount of growth. We're seeing some of our highest rates of belonging that we've seen since taking the survey for our middle schoolers and our high schoolers. And then Nick nicely did the job of breaking it down by demographics and lived experiences. So we can see based on different either demographics or lived experiences, how it compares to that dashed line, which is the average. And then we're seeing, again, we're continuing to see a trend where our female identifying students tend to have lower rates of belonging than their peers. So something that we've seen across both social emotional learning, belonging, and I think you saw that last year with attendance too, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I did some digging too, while we grouped BIPOC students together just to have enough students where we could present. I also think it's important to note that for our 6 through 8 grade band and for UES, Black learners are actually reporting higher rates of belonging than their peers. So that's really exciting growth that we've seen over the last, this survey in particular too. And I just want to give a shout out to Rachel and Calais, who do a lot of work with our BIPOC students, really supporting their sense of belonging. And we're seeing that pay off in how students are reporting sense of belonging. So kudos to them. They're some of the most thoughtful, wonderful humans that you get the delight to meet if you're able to meet them. So
Just so, because you brought Rachel and Clay up, can you just give like an overview of what they do real quick?
yeah, so they work specifically, there are BIPOC space facilitators, so they work with students who identify as BIPOC, and some other students as well who enter into that space too. And their focus is really just supporting students feeling a sense of belonging, developing a sense of identity for students, and really thinking about how do we create community in a mostly white space. So again, they're just wonderful humans, and I use them regularly to push my thinking across a lot of different things. So I just want to shout out to them. Did that answer your question? And then we're also seeing a continued trend where students who are qualified for free and reduced lunch and who are on a 504 also generally report a lower rate of belonging than their peers, specifically at the middle school and the high school level. So that's something that we're unfortunately still seeing and will continue to look at. Moving down to the SEL prioritized standards. So again, this just gives us a capture of how students are self-reporting on our 4 different prioritized standards that we have at MRPS for social emotional learning. That, you know, Nick broke this down based on school, just to give you a sense of how this compares to other districts. Self-management at UES is we're 80th percentile. At MSMS, we're for 5th graders in the 90th percentile. For 6 through 8, we're in the 99th percentile. And for self-management for MHM, we're in the 99th percentile. For UES, for learning strategies, we're in the 70th percentile. For 5th graders, we're in the 99th percentile. For 6 through 8, we're in the 90th percentile. And for the high school, we're in the 99th percentile. For social awareness, UES is in the 90th percentile. All of our other grades are actually in the 99th percentile when compared to other schools. And then emotional regulation, which has been some painfully, you know, hasn't grown in the same way that we've seen our other SEL prioritized standards. We have seen growth, particularly at the high school and the middle school. And so at UES, we're in the 90th percentile when compared to other schools with similar characteristics. And for our 5th through 12th graders, we're in the 99th percentile when compared to other schools who take this survey.
So can I just, to make sure I understand what you're saying, when I look at this chart on the prioritized standards under emotional regulation, 55% of students at UES, either their teachers reported it or they self-reported that they are like a positive status for emotional regulation, and that's in the 90th percentile of the country
It is in the
compared to,
90th
yeah,
percentile.
okay.
Which does seem low. Emotional regulation, especially when compared to the other ones, seems like that's the one where needs some support
Mhm.
mostly.
Yeah.
So that is something that we've seen in our own district where it tends to be the lagging one, even though we've seen some growth at the middle school and the high school this year.
Mhm.
But it has been the one that I think interestingly, when we look at our SEL interventions, has the most often is the goal set is around emotional regulation. And we're seeing it across the board is a little lower in how kids are reporting how they're doing
Mhm.
in that historically.
Mhm.
Makes
Got
sense.
it. Okay.
Jess, if I remember correctly, as you were mentioning the percentiles for the other competencies, it's, if I recall. UES was still like what, relatively stable, right? 90th percentile is not very different than the other three competencies, and so it's at least. The rest of the country is seeing the same lack of
Yeah, good point.
growth in that competency.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, UES for emotional regulation was in the 90th percentile. And then our other grades are in the 99th percentile. So yeah, it is interesting to see that trend nationwide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can I ask just one other quick question is if I'm looking at the figures above, UES, the the non-dominant demographics seem to be relatively high compared to the other schools for more than half of them. And so, yeah, that's great, right? Something is going really well at UES, and it's just interesting to see that pattern across multiple different dimensions, so.
Yeah, no, it is really interesting to see that, and something that I've noted too. And especially because we have extended Kalei and Rachel as the BIPOC facilitators. We've actually extended their work to now be in UES, but it's the first year that that's happening. And we're still seeing that trend despite that being the first year. So that has been really helpful. And I think some of that too is just, for students on plans, they have a case manager that they typically have really strong relationships with. Like they have adults for students who, are maybe struggling social emotionally. Again, they're like getting services with somebody who can be a really close sort of adult. And so I think that boosts belonging rates at a lower level in maybe ways that doesn't translate as similarly when you have a high schooler who needs that level of support who's getting pulled out of classes. I think they have like an inverse relationship when you're getting pulled out at the high school level versus like, oh, I get to go with like Miss Parker, But so that's how I would read some of that.
Thank you.
I will speak to some of the work that our SEL coach at the middle school is doing, Lauren Singer. She has gotten to the point, this is her third year in our district, where she is supporting teacher teams and doing a crosswalk within their curriculum, looking at, okay, I'm going to do this literacy standard, and while I'm doing this literacy standard, what is the social emotional learning standard that I'm teaching at the same time, right? Whenever we ask kids to do anything at school, we're asking them to engage in a social emotional learning standard too. So it's really exciting to see the work that she's leading with a lot of those teams and just creating a lot of intentionality around like, okay, I'm having group work, so I'm automatically asking a kid to engage in emotional regulation. So how can I dive into that and make it more explicit? And I think that we're seeing a lot of that in her work really coming through in some of this as teachers push their practice and hopefully feel supported in doing that. And doing similar work here at the high school too during faculty meetings through the use of circles and having people look at some of their lessons and thinking about like what are the natural ways that I'm asking kids to engage in SEL and how can I just intentionally deepen those as part of the curriculum. So really exciting, I think. I know I'm looking at Nick like he has a question for me.
He agrees.
Frank, that's you.
Yeah. So I can share a bit about an update on chronic absenteeism for the district. Just as a reminder for what chronic absenteeism is, it's missing 10% or more of the school year for any reason. So excused absences, unexcused absences, and out of school suspensions are all included in this metric. We are really looking at lost instructional time when we're talking about chronic absenteeism. As a district, really happy to see that our current numbers in November are sitting at 12% of students are chronically absent, which is the lowest we've seen it since we started tracking it. We are looking at 21% of young people who may qualify for free and reduced lunch are chronically absent. Young people who may have an IEP are at 19%, and our multilingual learners are sitting at 12%, right at the district average. The graph here that was updated, so if you're looking at the newest version, it shows the trajectory for each school. So you can see where we were at in November of 2022, 23, 24, and now at 2025 for each school. And we've seen just a lot of growth. We look at chronic absenteeism. I always say it's kind of the canary in the coal mine. It's a real early indicator of what's going on as far as young people feeling that sense of belonging in our building, really reaching academic achievement levels that we want to see. If they're not in the building, it's hard to get those markers. So when we're looking at chronic absenteeism and seeing it come down so much, it's a really great sign of kind of our learners are feeling good about being in the building. Families are feeling good about their students being in the building. So it's a great sign to have seen that movement over the years. Also broke it out by grade. Typically what you would typically see in our district and across the country, typically it levels out so that kindergarten is the highest and 11th or 12th grade is generally the highest, and it kind of has a dip in the middle. That's kind of the typical trajectory. One of the things that we're looking at is 10th grade in particular tends to be higher. And we've seen this over the past couple of years as well. And so this is something we're going to unpack as a high school team. You know, I have lots of wonderings. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think the trajectory here at the high school of students as they get older may not be taking as many courses here. And that 10th grade year is really their peak scheduling moment. So we're going to be kind of unpacking that, but it's a trend that we've seen over the last couple of years with our 10th grade in particular. The other interesting thing that I'll note is what is now 6th grade is sitting at 5%. And last year it was 5th grade, and the year before that it was 4th grade. So this cohort moving through has continued to have very low rates of chronic absenteeism. And often when I talk to teachers and families about this group, they're like, what are you talking about? This group? And there may be higher levels of behavioral incidents maybe with this group, just some other maybe challenges in school. But I think it's really cool that these young people have community with each other, and however they're steering their energy, we could maybe tweak a little bit. But it's cool to see this cohort move through and continue to be the lowest that we see across. And I really think it speaks to the community that group in particular has. So just wanted to make a note of that. And then below that, I've got it broken down by school when you look at certain student subgroups or identities and where each school is at. So UES sitting at 11%, Main Street at 10%, and the high school at 15%. We typically see the high school be much higher than an elementary or middle because at the high school level, we track attendance by period. So there's a lot more opportunity to track lost instructional time, whereas at an elementary school or middle school, we don't track by period. It's usually daily attendance. So we'll track tardies or early departures to be mindful of that. But overall, when we quantify our chronic absenteeism at the high school, just because of how we track attendance, it's going to be a little bit more elevated than what we would see in other schools. So that's kind of the quick snapshot of chronic absenteeism.
Right. Tim?
On that historical chronic absenteeism graph, are we back to pre-COVID levels with where we are now?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I don't think in my experience when I started in 2021, looking back at how we tracked attendance, how we monitored attendance, the data I would not say is on par with what I would look to for like solid numbers. So I can't say. What I can say is pre-COVID, post-COVID, right? It doubled. Nationally, it went from 8 million students to 15 million students chronically absent pre to post-COVID. The most recent data, because I get to do this in some other work that I do, has only shown, so it peaked at 29%, across the country was the peak in 2022. Last year, I think it's landing around 24%. So in general, across the country, we are not seeing a return to pre-COVID numbers. And in fact, most states are setting what they call a 50 and 5. So they want to cut their numbers by 50% over 5 years. Many of them are starting their goal this year. So they're looking to get back to pre-COVID numbers in like 2030. So that's like state trajectories. I would say in our district, we are, I think we'll see what happens this year. Like last year, we were at 20%. We peaked at 32% in our district. At least that was my first year, like when we first started tracking it. So I would say if we stay in this range this year, I feel pretty confident we are like pretty close to what I would expect to see pre-COVID, just based on what we've seen nationally and in other areas. Yeah.
I just want to take a second to celebrate this because this is really,
you.
really
Same.
exciting to see us moving in this direction. And even with the discrepancies that we're seeing between some of the demographic groups, every single demographic group is moving in the right direction. And so I just kudos to all the work that you all are doing to get our kids in school and to have them want to be here, so that they can be learning.
Yeah.
Lots of places are trying to steal Nick from us and I'm not letting them.
And my only question is, I know you all have an absentee evening, an evening to discuss chronic absenteeism with the community on December 9th. And I'm just curious what your goals are of that.
Yeah,
that
so
event.
December 9th, 5:30 here in the library for the whole district, K-12, pre-K to 12. This came about from the high school caregiver group. Actually, it was a request from that group, and it's so the goals of the night is twofold. One is to share with the community like why we look at things like we look at them with chronic absenteeism. I think most folks are used to a more traditional model of truancy focused, which is a punitive model based on unexcused absences, and why we now look at everything relatively the same. Like we care about lost instructional time. And so what we want to communicate in this night is a shift from compliance to connection. That's the whole spirit of chronic absenteeism. And also show that like it works, right? The second prong of this is also for families to have community because it's hard. If you have students, that may be struggling with anxiety, that may have severe health impacts, there are any number of barriers that families are facing when it comes to coming to school. And as much as, we want to talk at them and share the best practices, there's also a request from families and power in having community in this. So other families, other caregivers that are going through the same thing, they may not know each other, and it can feel incredibly, incredibly isolating and lonely to feel like you're the only one who every morning you're going through tears to get your kid to school because it's such a battle. So part of the spirit of this night is also to bring community together around this, to like let people know like you're not alone. This is a really hard thing, and there's community there. Yeah.
Got it.
What time did you say it was?
5:30 on the 9th.
And there's dinner provided
Dinner and
and childcare.
Yeah.
Just gotta make sure RSVP.
I'm looking at previous year presentations, and am I correct that the way the data is broken out into sort of different groups is more expansive than in previous presentations?
Yeah, it's ebbed and flowed. We generally try to keep these demographics or like what I would call life experiences or identities. We try to keep these. Sometimes, like for example, one of the things that's not in chronic absenteeism is young people experiencing homelessness. So that's not in our numbers right now, but it's something we've reported in the past. So we know, like in the past, it was we saw a peak of 73% of students who were experiencing homelessness were chronically absent. This year, we're sitting at 50 right now. So generally, we try to keep these demographics, but I don't know Jeff's piece. I think there's probably layers there where you're
Yeah, I mean, for my work, I was really pulling those demographics from Panorama, and now that we have Nick to do some of our data for us, thank you, Nick. He was able to pull through some pieces that I wasn't able to formally report on, like free and reduced lunch
Yeah.
around belonging, because that just wasn't one of the metrics that Panorama tracks.
Well, I appreciate that. I know that we've been asking to see the data broken out like that, and it's been, you know, kind of a work in progress, and like, it's great to see, and it's awesome to see what the outcomes are when we're looking at those different lenses. I think that's really awesome, so thank you.
Cool. Any other questions or thoughts for Nick and Jess? Okay, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up, I think is Ian, is that right? Yes. Communications plan, community engagement plan for budget season.
I live in person. Hello. Sorry, I'm a little sick, so I'm gonna keep my mask on. That's okay, thanks, Libby. So this is very similar to last year's presentation. So I won't take too long on the slides, and I want to get to more of the discussion at the end personally. So budget and communications and engagement. This is how I think about a communications plan. We've got our strategy and then our implementation, and each slide will point at a part of this plan. But context, the main messages we want people to take away, our elevator speech, how we quickly communicate those main messages, our timeline for the plan, and then our implementation. Who are we targeting? Who is going to help us target those people, and how are we going to get there? And then tangibles, all those fun assets, and then feedback. How are we going to know we're doing well and we're reaching the people we intend to reach? Right, main messages, these are the same as last year. The context is pretty straightforward, but the main message, we're going to share our successes. We're going to simplify the complex budget process. We're going to seek to consider the voice of the community, and we're going to approve a proposed budget. All aligned with that. Quickly. I drafted an elevator speech as bullets. I find it easier to sort of memorize those. These change throughout budget season, but this is my take on where we're at right now. We'll see some examples here in the next slides of ways we've already kind of communicated the elevator speech out. We have our budget webpage. It's year after year, we maintain the same landing webpage. So when you scroll down that page, I think you can see 4 or 5 years past budget seasons and very similar structure. Right now, we have the school board statement on the top of the budget webpage. I would recommend reading that if you haven't yet, but that's your all statement about this budget season. I think it's great. Other sort of elevator pitch-esque things. These are a little bit longer, but Libby's communicated in the district newsletter in November. And then we've got things already going up on social media. We had a quick pulse survey that will look at some of the feedback that we've gotten thus far from that survey. So it's happening. We're already in budget season, right? Timeline, you've seen this before. We're here. The timeline's pretty straightforward. Target audiences, of course, our internal folks and our external folks, communities in Montpelier and Roxbury, who ourselves, administrators, and then everybody we're talking to is also messengers as well. And how, so getting in kind of the funner stuff. Digital, we've got our landing webpage that we just saw. We've got pop-up banners on our website now, so anybody visiting the site will get a little learn more pop-up to go there. We'll have that throughout budget season. We have our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube social media platforms as a district. We post infographics, videos, podcasts, lots of fun things there. From Porch Forum, direct mass messaging. We have our Parent Square as the software we use this year to reach our caregiver communities. In print, we've got, of course, our local press. One idea that I'd love to talk about near the end is a mass mailing and show some examples of some other districts who do mass mailings about the budget. That would be utilizing USPS to land at every door, something like a flyer or annual report. Canvassing around our communities, and then events. Libby's got things on the calendar already. Superintendent's forum, the coffee and chats, caregiver council, we have one tomorrow. Our pie meetings, lots of things happening, and we've got great calendars of events now on our website. The schools have their caregiver councils, and then the school board has, of course, your meetings. And if we could pull it up, I heard some chatter before the meeting about the great calendar that you all are using as the Equity and Engagement Committee to sign up and identify different opportunities for you all as a board. So I think that's a natural opportunity to latch onto that, and I want to hear feedback on that. Go ahead, Libby. So what are some of our tangibles? Last or a couple meetings ago, we had the idea of a QR code. Here it is. That'll send us to the budget landing webpage. So any definitely print asset, I want to put that on that we've got out there. And then they'll be optimized. I always like to say this, they'll be accessible and optimized across communication channels. So we're not reinventing the wheel and making a ton of beautiful things. It's a recognizable sort of brand asset we've built up of what budget season looks like. And we just repeat it across the board. That are some examples of what the assets look like. As we get to some ideas, I already have some posters printed that you all can help me canvas, some sort of like introductory, join us along the way, but this is mostly from last year what we had. We have a nice logo, lots of different social media things throughout, and then a one pager that comes near the end that highlights sort of what we've heard, how we've applied that once we have an approved budget. That's my favorite to work on because I think it narrows down like 6 months of conversation to one document, not to simplify it that much, but that's a simplified asset that we put out there. And then a poster kind of highlighting the whole process and how we want people to engage throughout. This is the poster that I have an idea for this year. I like to break it out into sort of contribute, learn, and vote stages of budget communications timeline. Contribute being what we're in now as we draft the budget and develop it. Learn when we have it approved after that January 22nd meeting this year. And then, of course, vote on or before town meeting day. And then, so some data, what did we learn from FY26? We presented last year some ways we were going to keep metrics and analytics on how we're doing. So these are the highlights, and then we'll sort of scan quickly over some of the next ones. But our budget webpage is one of the top pages visited during budget week season on our website. No huge surprise there. Our users spend the most time on that page. People spend about 1 minute and 3 seconds on that page, which is I geek out on, but that's a long time to spend on a website. The rest of our pages are seconds or maybe 10 seconds. So it tells me that they're going to that page to learn something and spending time clicking on our different things to click into. We do calls to action to visit that page in all of our assets, and we'll continue to do that. Instagram and Facebook, 60% of our annual reach. I focus on reach rather than engagement metrics or followers, some of the other categories of the social media metrics that you might focus on, because reach encompasses like what it implies, everyone you're getting in front of. They might be followers, they might not. Engagement, depending on how you look at it, might be a good thing or a bad thing. Are they commenting? Are they liking? And it's a good thing overall, but it's not something that I focused on as a public education institution. That would be something I would focus on a little bit more. For-profit enterprise engagement matters a lot. Anyway, reach is what I focused on for the purpose of this presentation because it's individuals seeing our content. So that's up. Over half of the people reached are not followers of MRPS. I found that really interesting as I started to look at the data. Our reach has increased 100%, 400% over the first 3 months of this school year compared to the same period last year. To me, that just says we're in a great position to launch into this. People have been fond of us at the start of this school year in our social media posts. Photos and videos of students and staff celebrations continue to reach and engage the most people year after year. No surprise why. That's what we're here for. That's what we celebrate, and that's what people like to see us celebrate. So those don't stop just because it's budget season. Those still maintain where our focus is. Budget videos, anything more interactive than a flat image always gets more reach. So I do like putting attention into those and time. I think they're time well spent, and the time we did with Vic last year was really great, the little 3-part series. And I hope to do sort of shorter videos this year as well to emphasize that. Front Porch Forum, we've got the 2 accounts, the school board and Libby's. They're an effective way of reaching our greater communities, and we'll continue to post on them. And then newsletters. We reach 99% of our caregivers through our newsletters, which we've worked really hard with Nick and our registrars in the past year to increase how many folks we reach. And with the launch of Parent Square, that's been great. They arrive all translated if required. So Parent Square has been great in tandem with the work that Nick and her registrars are doing. And they remain the most effective way, I think, to reach our caregiver community. And we'll get into some numbers on that later. Okay. So diving quickly into each of those little buckets that I mentioned, here's our analytics for our budget webpage. This is from the last full school year. There is a peak during what I call budget season, the January. I'm sorry, that's so tiny. On that, the blue is the board homepage, the green is the budget webpage, and the orange is the agendas and events page. There's multiple pages of our budget webpage, but lots of people visiting the homepage. You can see that big blue spike right in January. That makes sense. Go ahead, Libby. Oh, these are some of my sort of hypothesis based on the timing of when they hit. First draft, second draft, maybe early voting, and then leading up to town meeting day. So some pretty safe assumptions. Instagram, what do we learn? It peaks during budget season. 65% of users reached happened during budget season, and we've seen 139% increase compared to the same period last year in terms of our user reach at the start of this school year. So we're in a good spot. I like to look at the little peaks and think, what hit when those peaks happen? So Olivia, if you wanna click, I think something appears. Yeah, I wrote them down here for myself. It's kind of fun. The first one's Dan McGuire's National History Day celebration.
Cool.
The second one is Katrina Phillips at the high school. We're celebrating her. The third was the MHS Solon's basketball. Fourth was February snow day. And the fifth was February 18th, 2025 school board meeting notice. So we hit one of the top 5.
Wow.
Woohoo, among those other top players. Facebook.
I think we're higher than the snow day.
Yeah. Facebook, similar. We're in a good position to launch this year. Same proportion of reach happening during budget season. The fun ones there. One last school year was Rachel Whalen's announcement of being new UAS principal.
Cool.
Chris Parker laughing with a student was number 2 in the
Oh, that was such a
that
great
was such a
picture.
good photo. Yeah, we love that one. 3 was the MSMS winter concert highlight. 4 was January budget warning approval meeting warning. Hit 1 again on Facebook, and the 5th was the February snow day. Front Porch Forum, I just listed out all of the times that we posted from our various 2 accounts last year, and then we posted once with that survey link already this year from Libby's account. So those come through under our district and have Mia and Libby's names and titles. That's kind of our only analytic on Front Porch Forum, is to know that we put it out there. And the size of the subscriptions. Newsletters, we've got a great open rate on them. This is from the last one, much higher than the national kind of 23-28% average open rate for newsletters.
Wait, nationwide for school newsletters, it's
School
23%?
newsletters. Yeah, that was a number that I saw today.
Wow.
I came across today. I know, which surprised me.
Open rate meaning looking at the email?
Yep.
Or
Yep, so when we send a Parent Square, we can, and this feels a little strange, but we can tell if you opened it, if you clicked it, how much time you spent. And so, yeah, they're great analytics to pay attention to, and we've got a much higher than average open rate. And we reach all of our caregiver community that way. We have 4, and I wanted to highlight that they're more cross-connected than ever, with a similar footer at the end that kind of highlights things across district and across each other's newsletters. That was feedback from our caregiver councils, is that they wanted to know what was happening at other schools. So that was one of our things. Those links that are on the presentation linked in the board agenda, if you don't get the newsletter and want to sign up, now you can click these easy links to sign up for the school newsletter and or the district newsletter.
Great.
So if you're a community member and you want to see what the schools are up to and you don't get it automatically as a caregiver, sign up, you can see. The press, a great partner always. We can't control this much, so I'm saying how and feedback. It's a great reflection on what they're taking away from our board meetings. You know, I like to call attention to words like pressure and struggles and grapples, and their headlines have words that are catchy, and make readers want to read. So, they call out big numbers and that's their job, and they're making people read our articles, and they are well read, and we get a lot of feedback that people saw it in the Times Argus or saw it in the Bridge. Feedback throughout budget season, digital, we'll just continue to do what we always do. We'll pay attention to those metrics, make sure that our content is reaching more and more people, mix in videos, mix in what we know from that feedback worked well last year and build upon it. Print, the way we'll track that is through uses of the QR code. It's a little harder to track, but survey and response rate, sort of what are they doing the call to action based off maybe a print asset that they saw. And then events, RSVPs are people attending, maybe some exit tickets, those are all kind of ideas. But are folks attending like the forums that we set up? Go ahead. Quick survey that was out there, and then next slide, Libby, is the sort of summary of some of that feedback, if you want to talk to that.
Sure. So I took all the survey responses. We got 169 responses, I believe. And I put them into Notebook LM, which is an AI tool when you can just put in one bit of information, and asked it for the 4 highest themes and what were the percentages. And then I said, what were some of the powerful statements that were made, just for space. So I can see that that's not the most readable thing up there. So 45.7% of the respondents discussed student programming and quality in some way or the other. Some of the comments made were students' learning comes first. We should continue to invest in the people and programs that make student achievement possible, preserve the curricular breadth of our district, and maintaining high quality instruction, academic excellence at all schools. The second highest was fiscal responsibility and containment at 37.5%. This certainly, it is important to note that this theme jumped considerably when it was put out in Front Porch Forum for the larger community to comment on. When it was just sent to the MRPS community, that was at 17%. And I believe student programming was like at 20 something. It was very close, but student programming was above it.
And just to jump in there, just for the survey respondent breakdown, 60% were caregivers, 25% were community members, 8% were employees, and then there was like a 7% other respondents, their own kind of way.
And how did this survey get sent out?
It was sent out through my district newsletter, then on our social media, and then to Front Porch Forum.
Okay.
Residents, and so fiscal responsibility, 37.5% spoke to that. Some of the nicer phrased comments were residents and local government are necessarily in a time of triage and scarcity like we have not seen in decades. Montpelier taxes are already too high. I repeat, any significant increase to the school budget above an increase matching the increase in the cost of living will be too much and likely to fail. We simply cannot afford everything we'd like, and seemingly impossible balance between quality and affordability. High quality staffing, salaries, and retention received 21% of the feedback. Our teachers are irreplaceable and should be compensated as such. Retaining and attracting our incredible teachers and school leaders. Our schools are the safety net at the moment in these extraordinary times. Everything costs more, and the work and the support that is happening in our schools is essential. And then finally, 17% spoke to operational efficiencies and structures, created minimum enrollment for MHS classes, evaluate the impact of programs and whether they are worth the cost or if they can be done in a less expensive way, or reconsider some of the delivery models and programs may be prudent. Those were just some of the information that we received from that survey.
Thank you.
Again, 170 people answered.
That's pretty good.
Not bad.
Better than nothing.
Yep.
How do board members want to get involved? This is near the end. The next two slides are some, just a rehash of some of the ideas that I put throughout the presentation. To elaborate a little bit more on some of those, some of the mass mailing ideas. Libby, can you see the show note or the show notes? Speaker notes behind the scenes. But we have our annual report that it's a glossy magazine that we put at the two towns front offices in late January, and that has a back section that is our warning and a quick overview of the budget, similar to the one pager. We don't mail that out. We don't do a mass mailing of a smaller flyer. Some districts do mail that out. Libby, if you scroll down there, we don't have to look at the examples, but Colchester mails one every
Oh,
year.
I see what you're gonna do. Okay.
MMU has one. But that's a decision I think we can make. It would cost around $1,200 to mail a small sized flyer to every door in Montpelier and Roxbury.
Not this though. This is multi.
No, this is the Colchester one. This is the full annual report. This would cost more, but their town, close with their communications director, their town really comes to expect this and brings it to informational meetings and really relies on this for celebration of their school annually. And then sort of the asset that people are looking to learn about the budget. That's them.
They send that whole
None of
thing
us.
to every
They do.
resident
They send
in
it
their
to every
district.
door, yep.
Wow.
And they said,
Hey, kids on this one.
this is MSB.
Everybody, this is Jay Cronin right here. The Rose Bowl Parade.
Thanks, I'm sorry, Jake.
Libby, you probably received this. I
I do,
imagine it's
yeah.
a card stock, piece of paper that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, a lot do end up in a recycling bin. This might not be the most effective way to spend money, but it is a way to ensure you reach everybody, and I wanted to put it out there. I'm in a communications network with most communications people that work for our school districts across the state. And I don't have a formal number, but it seemed over half do mail something, so I found that interesting.
1,200 include printing,
No, does not.
it's just the delivery.
Yeah.
That would be the postage, okay.
Yeah, printing up. We do print like 40 copies of the glossy annual report right now. Lots more to print a little magazine thing. But we have a budget for advertising every year that we haven't utilized much. So I think the money's there if that was a decision y'all made as something you wanted to pursue.
Mhm.
Yeah, like last year, I emailed and will continue to, if you all like it, some snippets, like when we do a social media post or as an elevator speech changes a little bit, or hey, can you share this on Facebook? Just things throughout the season as timed in between board meetings as ways you might help us if you're a social media user or want to share it in whatever way that you have to share things. Yeah, I'm curious.
Does the budget appear, I know that the school board meeting minutes and a schedule is on the city website. Does our budget go in that section too, or
It
not?
does not. The warning, I would imagine, does. I can connect with John on that. I know the warning materials do, but not throughout, like in any similar fashion to our landing webpage. I think
Okay.
that's pretty formal. He receives our warnings as one of our posting locations and puts them there. But it's not with emphasis on the budget season necessarily.
Could we put something in there? Cause I think people access
Sure,
that.
that's a great idea and something
Um,
about us, yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
can check
maybe
that
a,
out.
a link to click on or something.
Yep.
And also, given that the makeup of Montpelier is over 30% is people over 65, I'm wondering if something could go in the newsletter or if something could be left at the senior center in the newsletter there,
Okay.
or at the senior center. And just one other thing, which I've now forgotten because I'm old.
Yeah.
You mean
but-
like one of these posters at the senior center, Lynn?
A poster or a budget handout or, whatever, if you're doing pages, something like that, I think that could be really handy.
Yeah.
Something that's readable for the general public.
Well, it seems like maybe a few of those annual reports, if we have any lying around, or maybe we print instead of 40 of them, we print 50 and we leave 10 at the senior center and maybe a couple at the library.
Yeah,
And
that was
a couple at the Roxbury Free Library.
We print 40 of them and we usually have 40.
I know, I have one. I get
I
one.
think I gave you guys one, yeah. So I don't know if we need to print any more.
Yeah, those are, that seems
Yeah,
like a
just
great
some more
idea, have
interpretive
them.
more.
Mhm.
Absolutely, yeah. The next slide is just a picture of a lot of places around our communities. I'm sure this is not all, but we've talked about senior center, Rotary, all those groups before, and I saw some on your equity engagement calendar list. I heard chatter about a December date where you're getting in front of the,
Mhm.
maybe.
Yeah, we can put that up
yeah.
when you're done, we'll
Yeah,
get that.
so lots of places to connect and canvas and drop off annual reports and absolutely, but yeah, the senior center was on my radar. Thank you, Lynn.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a thought similar to, I think maybe Lynn's, thinking around, like I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work and there's always this tension, right, between like the fact that it skews so far towards digital. And there's a proportion of our community that is disconnected. And I don't know what the right answer is on how to get those folks who are not digitally literate or connected. Yeah, and it costs money, and I don't know what the right answer is, but as much as we can, you know, elevate those non-digital forms of communication, I think is crucial for that portion of the community.
Agreed.
Are you able to put that spreadsheet up, or Libby, or do you want me to join Zoom so I can?
No,
can do it.
I have it.
Okay.
I can share.
This is part of how we're answering, how does the board want to get involved? And I'll just tee up a couple of meetings ago, we had a very brief brainstorm about what board members could do to be in the community during budget season. And we said, at the end of the brainstorm, let's have the equity and engagement committee think more deeply about this. And so we did. And so I'll kick it over to Rhett to walk the through. You want to go to the next tab, Anna? Yeah.
So. If you slide down a little bit, because we're in December, or we're going to be in December, I should say. There's a second grade art show on December 4th. The farmer's market is pretty active. I think that it's too active close to Thanksgiving, and so we were looking at December 6th, right? It's like-
That and
Saturday.
yeah, the 6th is that Saturday, and it'll be after we have a first draft of the budget, whereas this coming Saturday, which is the Thanksgiving market, we don't have a draft of a budget yet, so that was our thinking.
We would like to figure out a time to be at Kellogg Hubbard Library.
I still haven't done that, but I will.
And if we're going to have, you know, I think it's a good idea to have whatever publication we decide, whether it's a single page cardstock type of thing. At the Roxbury Free Library, it probably should be at Kellogg Hubbard as well. Not necessarily many copies, but just something that perhaps they would let us put in a prominent location that might stay there, which might help us with people that are not digitally super, because I think the library is a great place that people are likely to go. The senior center lunch, we have Lynn, Mia, and Libby all signed up on December 12th. Casey and I will be at Roxbury Free Library on December 6th. And then there's a concert at MSMS. And I don't know that we expect anyone to be at MSMS from 4:30 to 7:30.
It's a long concert.
It's the way they do it is they stagger it. There's like orchestra first and then band and then chorus.
With breaks in between.
With breaks in
Jazz band,
between.
too. They
So
play
there will be a lot of
concerts.
foot traffic actually from caregivers and other community members, like showing up just to see the orchestra, because that's where their kid plays or whatever, and then leaving, so. That's the
So we
idea
might
there.
have some additional columns on that day.
Yeah, we could break that one
Because
up.
we could potentially
Mhm.
have a bunch of us sort of take turns.
Yeah.
We have our we have like a school board sign
Banner,
thing,
we have a banner.
banner, we have a banner. We'll have our QR codes out and we'll have our elevator speech ready to go and properly memorized.
I think it would also be wonderful if we had, as we were saying, like, just like some of the slides from the budget presentation that are the main things, like what's our draft look like right now, total money. And what, you know, what we're anticipating, and maybe a breakdown pie chart, just so that we can have something that we're showing people while we're talking to them about this. And then for board members, this is similar to, for those folks who were at the fall festival or went to a open house or and like kind of staffed the board table there. It's similar to that. We're just there to be able to have have conversations with members of the community. But in this case, I know we've been kind of like, well, what do we talk about when we're at those? Here, we're hoping that we're engaging with people specifically around, well, this is what we've drafted so far as the budget goes. What are your thoughts on it? Or what do you know, maybe a follow-up on, we've heard from the community that, you know, these are the main themes that they want to see. What do you think about that? So it's our chance to really be bringing in input while we're still in drafting season, the drafting part of budget season, and not just, okay, you know, by going out to the community after mid-January when it's already, and then just asking them to vote for it. That's the idea here.
We're also answering questions about what the work commitment is and what the responsibilities and opportunities are to be a board member, because we're like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have some openings.
Mhm.
People have questions about what that's like. I think we were at the math night and we had some conversations about. You know, what's involved, how many openings are we're expecting, I believe, 3 openings. So that's an opportunity for anyone motivated, please join us.
We just got an email the other day from the VSBA with a great like toolkit and assets to promote joining school boards that I intend to use and can provide some of those for these events too.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, and the Equity and Engagement Committee, we looked at all the different things that are happening in the community during this very pretty brief periods, a couple of weeks, but a good time to be getting input from the community before we do a second draft of a budget and then a third draft and then a final draft. So we thought that there's a lot happening in this little section of the spreadsheet here, but that was our thinking, is that it's like compact, but so we're not like extending it all the way, you know, for weeks and weeks and weeks, but we're trying to get a lot of engagement happening in this short period of time.
When can people start voting? I should know that, but I don't. Like, when's early voting?
Voting opens. I don't know.
just saw that, but I don't remember.
I know.
I'm just thinking that once people can start voting, that's when we want them to like
Sure they have.
hear it and go in educated.
It's got to be after the warning comes out.
True. Yes, that's a good point.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
so February-ish.
Yeah, yes.
Summer phase, right?
Good point.
Yeah, late January, February is when we'll have that one pager with the proposed budget, but I like the idea and can contribute slides and simplified assets of the drafts of where we're at for those tabling events. I think that makes a lot of sense. Get the contribute built up.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe in February, we'll have another version of this spreadsheet for board members to do different kinds of engagement that is more of a get out the vote, but this one, the purpose is hear what people are thinking based on what we've thought, what we have so far, what we've drafted so far. Do board members have questions about that? Thanks, Scott, for signing up.
It's not easy.
As folks have connections with any of these groups, if you're talking to individuals and want to loop me in on emails or say, hey, go Canvas here, let me introduce you to so-and-so, definitely do that, please. Like a senior center connection would be great. Like that.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Oh, I had one idea for ads, which is, maybe as series of them, but small, like little quarter page ones that are each ad is a different like celebration of our schools. So there was a lot of great celebrating that Libby did in her presentation at the last board meeting at the beginning before getting to the pressures. And if we just forget that stuff, we pulled out one thing for each ad and maybe like we celebrate our
Small stories.
new school music teacher. Oh shoot, I'm forgetting who just won it.
Sadie.
Sadie just won, yes.
And Ally
Just-
Tarwater one, yeah.
Yeah.
Ally, yeah.
Yeah, small stories that are less about voting and more about just celebrating our schools and what this investment means.
I think that's
That our
great.
community makes.
I want to mention that in the Times Argus, they sponsor, we don't pay for it ever, 4 times a year, we post, I think it's a full page celebration of our schools. One came out last Thursday.
Oh, great.
And so it had about 12 pictures of all the things similar things that Libby celebrated at the start of last meeting. So we've been in the Times Argus and will be
Excellent.
again before the end of budget season with another full page of that. But yeah, I like that idea. I can look into ad costs and buy, do you mean the Times Argus and the Bridge? Are there other places?
That's what I was thinking was that Times Argus in the Bridge. I didn't know about the full page one that we already have, so that's great.
Yeah, it's great and it's in one paper. It's in one Thursday. So I
Right.
think obviously ads extend our reach.
Do they put that in the digital
They don't.
edition?
They
Oh,
don't.
so we can't
It's
spread it.
just print, yep. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Anna.
I'll leave these here if you want to grab some and put them somewhere.
Okay, and now we're on to the first quarter financial report. So I'll kick this over to the operations committee. Thanks, Tim.
Is statute, just feel free to chime in. So this was the first quarter that we received a financial update from our new business manager, Mike Sessi. So it was a really good presentation, I thought, and one of the things that he's gonna do going forward is think about, we asked, you know, if there are other ways that he's used before, if there are other, you know, tools to help us understand the financial picture. Feel free to propose them. So what you see here is the format that we're used to seeing from the past. In the future, it may change a little bit because when you have a new perspective in, it's good to kind of see if he has any suggestions. I think he's still getting his feet under him. So for now, we're staying with the method that we usually see. We started our update before we got to the financial specifically with an update on the tax anticipation note that we took out earlier this summer to cover cash flows through the late summer, early fall. And he said that the revenue that we're gonna earn on that should help us cover what we're expecting to see as some shortfalls in tuition. I guess last year we had a large number of out-of-district students paying full tuition. And I think some of them moved into the district, so obviously not a revenue source in the same way anymore. But in some of the ways that he's managing the revenue of the tax anticipation note, I think we can kind of make up for that. It's good news.
Wait, I have a clarifying question. Why are we getting revenue from this tax implication?
They give you some kind of special deal on like a extra account. If you take a tax anticipation, the arbitrage.
A what?
Arbitrage.
That helped.
I think just saying it again, maybe louder and slower.
Yes, I still don't understand what that is. I guess I understood that to be more like a loan, so I'm not sure how we have interest.
It's a loan, but it's revenue that it's money that's sitting with us and we're earning interest on it until we pay it back.
Okay, thank
And
you.
the interest rate, I think, is favorable, so
Got it.
he is managing it such that we're earning some interest on it and that is gonna be helpful. I think we don't put that till the end of the year.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
and yeah, it makes up for a little bit of shortfall in the tuition. He said there's nothing really out of ordinary that he's seeing in the financials at this point. He said that some of the extraordinary special education expenses may come in over budget this year, but that's kind of a match from the state. The state will just match the revenue for extraordinary special education, so that's not a concern. He was just noting it as something that's happening. think we asked if there was any challenges with respect to federal grants at this point, getting money from the feds, but that's something that's managed mostly through AOE and sort of just, we get the money from AOE, so nothing striking at this point. Basically, it was a pretty uneventful update, which we liked, and we're happy to answer any questions if anyone had anything specific.
I have a couple. One is the arbitrage that I was just asking about. Is that what he means by opportunity to increase income budget by 50K plus? That's what
Yeah.
is referring to.
Yes.
Okay.
Which balances out the one just above it.
Right.
The 3 private pay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I see on here that we don't have any receipts yet from after school programs. Maybe this is more of a question for Libby. Do we know which financial report, like which quarter do we start to see?
It'll be in the next one. He did, when did you guys do? You did this 2 Fridays ago.
Yep.
And we received some checks last week.
Okay.
So from both after school
Okay.
pieces, so it will be in the next one.
All right.
That was just one of those things that like he didn't have on his radar and I put it on his radar and then he
Yeah.
got the checks like the next day.
Yeah.
So
Right. Those are my only questions. Anybody else have other questions?
So I think on behalf of the committee, I move that we approve the first quarter financial report.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Okay, on to policy monitoring. We have monitoring reports for policies B8, the electronic communication between employees and students, C3, which is our transportation policy, and B1, substitute teachers. And similar to the consent agenda, we usually move these as a package, and then if any board member wants to discuss any of them, they can pull them for discussion. So is there a motion to approve the monitoring reports for B8, C3, and B1?
I move we approve the policy monitoring reports for policies B8, C3, and B1.
Thanks, Jill. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Casey. All right, any discussion on any one of them or? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. And then moving on to policy readings, we have a first reading for policy D8, the selection of library materials, and a third reading for policy C9, the local wellness policy. Anything of note from the policy committee on these two?
There was, I think, 1 sentence added from our librarians to our library materials policy, and one thing about the local wellness policy that's sort of there's a lot of references to a lot of federal programs, and there's a lot of changes at the federal level. We don't think there's anything so specific in the policy that it is inaccurate or wrong, but there's a lot in flux, and we think the language is broad enough to not say anything that's not true.
Oh,
In a
good.
sense, because
You're saying even if things change at the federal level?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, there are references to programs that are in flux, we could say, or but they're not gone as far as we know. Yeah.
I realized when I pulled this up, Justin, and I apologize for this because I should have realized it earlier. My team made some suggestions, and the reason why I thought they got to you and they didn't.
Oh,
So
from the wellness?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which I apologize, but I just pulled up our copy of, because we were doing it on a copy, not on the one you were working off of. So for instance, it mentions family and consumer science. We don't have that course. So we switched that to health and fitness courses. because that's where that work would be done.
You send the wrong word.
Yeah, yeah, let me do, I'm sorry, we'll put it on again.
That's okay. We could just have a fourth reading. After the policy committee looks
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah, I should have noticed that, and I didn't.
What was the one sentence the librarians added to the library materials policy? Yeah, mine's in green. Oh, I see it highlighted. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then I pulled up the D22, so that we're talking about, it would be. Now we call it D8. Is D8 significantly different than D22? Which is the one we already have.
No, and we weren't sure why. MRPS calls it D22, and I think that,
It was an old numbering system, I think, and
Yeah,
we're moving
so-
towards the VSBA numbering system.
so that,
Okay.
but the language was very consistent from
Okay.
one to the next.
Good, because I remember passing D22 and it was at the request of the library, of our librarians. And so I wouldn't want to change it significantly without, and it looks like they've already taken a look at D8 and they just have that one edit, so that's.
Yeah,
Sounds
it
good to
just
me.
happens that the VSBA passed it in April of 2025.
Right, okay, so we created a policy before the
Before
SBA did.
that,
Mhm.
we're just catching up with their change.
Or maybe they're catching up with us, it's
Yeah.
either one.
Yeah.
So I have
Thank you.
a quick comment about the suggested language from the librarians whereas I don't disagree, it seems redundant because it says the superintendent or designee. Right, so wouldn't the librarians be the designee? Is this,
Possibly. I'm pulling it.
so you're saying someone who the superintendent delegates it to will then delegate it again? Just, yeah, and so I don't wanna change any of the other language, I totally agree with it, but. Yeah, does that make sense, or am I splitting hairs here?
I mean, I think our librarians that's what they do. And they asked that we put that language in there because it recognizes their expertise.
Mhm. I agree with that. To help me understand what you're talking about, Scott, I don't quite understand what you're saying.
So the librarians in this case would be the designees, correct?
Oh, no, so when it says superintendent designee, that's generally another administrator.
Gotcha, okay, that helps,
And other policies, that's generally what that means.
fantastic. Then ignore everything I just said.
Okay.
So as I look at it now, and this is maybe just something for the policy committee to consider, the one that we currently have passed does have a little bit more language around sort of like our vision for library materials, like under the implementation section, so D22, books and materials will represent, honor, and affirm all races, ethnicities, genders, sexualities, abilities, languages, religions, classes, immigration statuses. And I don't see anything like that in D8. So maybe it's worth. Maybe we don't need it in there, but I do remember us having a conversation about that implementation section as a way of.
And that's in the beginning of the policy, just not in the same statement. Vermont's freedom of read statement and reflect Vermont's diverse people and history, including diversity of race, ethnicity section. It has all the
Okay.
identifiers there.
That's in the,
It's just-
okay, so it's just in a different kind of area.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Thanks. Any other thoughts? On these two that are in first and third reading? No action taken by the board tonight on these two, just a chance to get them in front of the community and the board and for board members to share any thoughts with the policy committee as they keep working on them. Okay. Then I think we can move to adjourn. I don't believe we have anything else on the agenda. All right, thanks, Jim. Is there a second? This took a long time last meeting too. I don't know what's going on. Is there a second? All right, thanks, Jake.
Don't wanna
leave early. Yes, I guess. Everybody's like, can't we do something else?
Yeah,
Should we talk about?
resending or maybe I couldn't find the link to the sign up table
Sure,
for the December.
we can absolutely resend that. You got that?
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, we have a
I
motion.
did find a link to the In Our Schools that was actually in the online
Yeah.
version of the Times Argus, which I tried to send to the.
Yeah, I
Oh,
Did you get
the
it?
one pager.
It is accessible in there, just for the board's interest.
Oh, that's great to know. We have a motion on the table. It is to leave. Any discussion about that motion? Okay, great. All those in favor? Any opposed? Movement passes. Motion passes. Thanks, everyone.